You were never chasing your dreams. You were chasing compliance, the house, the career, the perfect body, the lifestyle optimization, the purpose that everyone on Instagram seems to find by 22. None of it was born in you. It was planted, installed like a program, and you've been running it obediently, thinking it was your will, but it isn't. Here's the brutal truth. Most people will never achieve their goals, not because they're weak or lazy, but because the goals were never theirs to begin with. You've been set up to fail by design. You were handed desires, metrics, and finish lines engineered not for your fulfillment, but for your submission. Installed by systems older than your memory, enforced by peers, teachers, parents, and institutions that profit from your obedience, not your liberation. This isn't a motivational speech. This is a dismantling. You've been told that if you just grind harder, visualize better, or stay more aligned, you'll eventually arrive at success. That if you keep manifesting, keep journaling, keep tweaking the strategy, your destiny will magically unfold. But you're optimizing the wrong script. You're not failing because your discipline is weak. You're failing because you've been coerced into wanting things that don't belong to you, that don't serve you. That never had your nature, your temperament, or your sovereignty in mind. This is not a gentle conversation. This is a war for your will. Because once you realize how deep the installation goes, how your education system didn't teach you to think, it trained you to comply. How your career path wasn't chosen, it was funneled. How even your self-improvement has been hijacked by industries that sell you inadequacy so they can market you a cure, then you'll understand. The system doesn't need you to be fulfilled. It needs you to be predictable. And nothing is more predictable than a person chasing dreams they didn't choose, in a system they can't question, for rewards they'll never truly own. So let me be very clear. This content is not for the faint-hearted. This is not a find your passion fairy tale. If you're looking for comfort, leave now. But if you're willing to unhook the machinery inside your head and start over, not with new goals, but with your own, then stay. Because Han Feizi didn't believe in virtue. He believed in control. And to reclaim your mind, you'll have to understand what he understood, that in a world built on manipulation, your only hope is to become more strategic than your masters. This is the beginning of your rebellion. Not to escape the system, but to reprogram your place in it. Your life is not a journey. It's an empire under siege. And your goals? They are not maps to freedom. They are battle flags planted by occupying forces. This is the metaphor you must understand. Your mind is a kingdom, but it's been infiltrated. Foreign powers, cultural, commercial, parental, institutional, have each laid claim to a piece of your mental territory. Some installed ideologies, others buried guilt, and all of them, without exception, left behind goals. They gave you slogans like, be successful, make your family proud, find your purpose, change the world. Sounds noble, feels meaningful, but these goals are not strategic. They're sentimental. And in war, sentimentality gets you killed. Because when your goals are installed by outsiders, your strategies become sabotage. You end up fighting for validation, not victory. For approval, not autonomy. You become loyal to goals you never questioned, sacrificing energy, time, and identity for castles you'll never inhabit, and crowns you were never meant to wear. Han Feizi would call this what it is, weakness disguised as virtue. Han Feizi wasn't a man of dreams. He was a man of systems, a legalist, a brutal analyst of how power flows and how minds are captured. He didn't believe in lofty ideals or the inner goodness of men. He believed in control, and how easily it can be extracted from those who think they are free. To Han Feizi, goals weren't sacred. They were tools, and those who installed them in others, they were not mentors. They were rulers. He wrote that people do not act from virtue or wisdom. They act from pressure, from fear, from structure. If you want loyalty, you create incentives. If you want obedience, you shape consequences. But most of all, if you want domination, you install beliefs so deep that the victim calls the chain a choice. You become your own jailer. You've been told your goals are choices. But Han Feizi would laugh, because what you call choice is often the result of conditioning so precise, so consistent, that you mistake programming for preference. You think you want to become a lawyer, or build a startup, or gain 1,000,000 followers. But those desires didn't emerge from solitude or inner alignment. They were shaped by repetition, expectation, and psychological pressure. Han Feizi observed this over 2,000 years ago in a dynasty ruled by fear, conformity, and rigid social order. He understood something most modern minds refuse to accept, that people don't naturally seek truth. They seek safety, and they're most obedient when they believe their obedience is voluntary. So the most effective ruler isn't the one who controls the army. It's the one who installs the agenda. And in the modern world, the new rulers wear different robes. They are influencers, corporations, institutions, market algorithms, university rankings, #trends, parental guilt. None of them hold whips. They don't need to, because they've taught you to whip yourself. You scroll through curated lives and feel failure for not achieving what someone else pretended to achieve. You pursue careers that promise prestige but deliver emptiness. You contort your desires to fit the mold of what's aspirational, then wonder why it all feels hollow. This is not coincidence, it's structure. Han Feizi taught that the structure of incentives matters more than the structure of character. You can be intelligent, motivated, and disciplined, and still become a puppet if your environment rewards imitation over introspection. If the battlefield you're placed on rewards loyalty to installed goals, then your success is just another form of defeat. Because in chasing the wrong flag, even victory is a form of slavery. You don't need more motivation. You need a purge. An empire must be cleansed before it can be reclaimed. You cannot build sovereignty on borrowed blueprints. You cannot rediscover your will while your mind is still decorated with foreign banners, the goals, expectations, and beliefs you've been taught to worship. And if you think you can tweak them or balance them, you've already lost. Half measures don't work in psychological warfare. Han Feizi didn't advocate for healing. He advocated for clarity. He didn't care how you felt about the system. He cared about whether the system worked, whether it could produce predictable outcomes, whether the subject would walk the line, whether the citizens would serve the law. He understood that power thrives in simplicity. Control the frame, and you control the fight. And your frame has been compromised. Every time you say, "I just want to be successful," ask yourself, who defined success for you? Every time you feel shame for not doing enough, ask, whose expectations are you failing to meet? Every time you picture your ideal self, ask, did I ever consciously choose this image? Or did it arrive already pre-approved? Because if you didn't build the flag, you're fighting for a master you can't even name. Han Feizi's brutality wasn't cruelty. It was realism. And realism is what you need now. You need to question every ambition, every milestone, every inner command with a blade in your hand. You need to see your goal list not as a roadmap, but as a crime scene. Who put that there? Why do I believe that? Who benefits if I succeed? You are not weak for wanting approval. You were shaped to want it. You are not lost because your goals feel empty. They were hollow when they were handed to you. The error isn't emotional, it's strategic. You were trained to be loyal to a system of manipulation so elegant that you mistook it for identity. Now it's time to burn it down and rebuild from nothing. Once the empire is purged, it doesn't revert to paradise. It becomes exposed, vulnerable, unstable, and that's exactly where you begin. You don't find your real goals in a moment of inspiration. You forge them in the fire of disillusionment, after the betrayal, after the collapse, after you've buried the goals that were installed in you like spyware. Then, and only then, can you ask the real question. What would I choose if no one was watching? Han Feizi wouldn't tell you to listen to your heart. He'd say, build a system. Because the only way to resist external manipulation is through internal structure, not feelings, not passion, but law, code, clarity, a personal doctrine as ruthless and disciplined as the state itself. Han Feizi didn't believe in freedom for its own sake. He believed in the power of order. He knew that even in chaos, power could emerge if the lines were drawn sharp enough. So if you want to reclaim your will, you must become your own ruler, your own legislator, your own strategist. Write your own law and obey it. Decide your own punishments and enforce them. Choose your own symbols and defend them like a fortress. Because in a world where the powerful are designing your dreams and the market is selling you prepackaged identities, the greatest rebellion is authorship, not inspiration, not vision boards, not alignment, authorship. You decide the war you'll fight. You choose the banners you'll fly. You build the empire within, one brutal, honest, unshakable law at a time. And when the voices return, the ads, the mentors, the peers, the expectations, trying to reinstall the old code, you'll be ready. You won't argue with them. You'll simply reject the frame, because you no longer serve. You rule. You don't realize it's happening, because it never announces itself. The hijacking of your will doesn't arrive with a flag or manifesto. It shows up in quieter, more sinister ways. In the moment you wake up already feeling behind. In the panic when someone else achieves a milestone you didn't even want. In the obsessive need to improve, but never feeling improved. That's not ambition. That's internalized surveillance. You live in a loop of chronic inadequacy, not because you're underperforming, but because the goals you're measuring yourself against were designed to keep you unsatisfied. That's how the system keeps you grinding, by dangling rewards that shift just as you approach them. Promotion, productivity, perfection. Every time you're close, the line moves. And the worst part? You've been trained to blame yourself. You say, I need to work harder. You say, I need to stop being lazy. You say, I should be more grateful. But here's what's really happening. You're not lazy. You're resisting. You're not ungrateful. You're misaligned. You're not failing. You're waking up. What you're experiencing is the friction between your authentic will and the installed agenda. That tension, the unease, the burnout, the quiet grief, is not a malfunction. It's the alarm bell. It's the sign that something foreign has taken root inside your mind. And until you name it, you can't remove it. So stop pretending it's a mindset issue. Stop calling it procrastination or low self-worth. Start seeing it for what it is, a war of occupation. Because once you identify the enemy, you can finally draw your sword. Every book, every podcast, every course that tells you to align with your goals assumes one thing, that the goals are yours. But that's the fatal error, the foundational lie baked into self-help culture. It treats motivation as a resource problem. It tells you to add discipline, add accountability, add morning routines, add vision boards. But if the foundation is corrupted, more effort doesn't fix it. It accelerates the collapse. You can't optimize a virus. And that's what most people are doing. Adding productivity layers on top of parasitic goals. No matter how many planners you buy or systems you install, you're still building someone else's empire. That's why you stay exhausted. That's why your ambition feels hollow. That's why every milestone brings a whisper of disappointment instead of triumph. Because somewhere deep down, you know, this wasn't your war to begin with. Han Feizi would not advise you to trust your feelings. He'd tell you to inspect the structure. What are the incentives? Who profits? Who gains control when you succeed? If the answer isn't you, then you're still operating under occupation. Brutal, but true. Conventional approaches fail because they never ask the real question, should this goal even exist? Instead, they just assume it's noble because it's common. If everyone's chasing it, it must be right. Right? Wrong. That's herd thinking. That's mass manipulation. That's how entire civilizations are controlled. Not through force, but through narrative consensus. If you want to escape, stop asking how to achieve more, and start asking what deserves to be achieved. Only then can the war turn in your favor. You don't reclaim your will in one heroic moment. You take it back hour by hour, through ruthless clarity and strategic defiance. Step 1. Purge the list. Sit down and write out every single goal you currently have. Life goals, career goals, health goals, relationship goals, everything. Then interrogate each one like a hostile witness. Who gave me this? What emotion drives it? Fear or conviction? What happens if I fail? Embarrassment or true loss? Cross out every goal rooted in shame, imitation, or unexamined expectation. If it doesn't emerge from your own values, it doesn't belong in your war room. Step 2. Rewrite your code. Not dreams, not aspirations. Code. Immutable rules you choose to live by. Keep them brutal and short. I do not chase approval. I only serve sovereign goals. I trade comfort for control. Post them where you can see them. Repeat them until they feel like laws, not suggestions. Step 3. Audit your environment. If your friends talk like marketers, cut them. If your feed sells you fantasy, burn it. If your daily rituals reinforce the old agenda, restructure them. Han Feizi believed control came from shaping behavior through consistent systems. Do the same. Design your environment to reward your new code and punish the old patterns. Don't wait for motivation. Use leverage. Step 4. Track alignment, not achievement. Stop measuring output. Start measuring loyalty to your law. Did I serve my sovereign goals today? Did I say no to what's beneath me? Did I protect my will? Your mind is a fortress under reconstruction. Act like it. Every empire faces opposition. Virtue against fortuna. Your will against external chaos. Your clarity against societal noise. In your war to reclaim authentic goals, you'll face two primary enemies. Fortuna, the unpredictable, external pressures, societal expectations, market trends, random circumstances, family demands. Fortuna doesn't care about your internal alignment. Fortuna simply tries to push you back into compliance. Virtue, as Han Feizi understood, isn't moral virtue. It's strategic strength. It's your disciplined response to chaos. It's your capacity to remain clear and calculated when everything around you demands compromise and compliance. Your installed goals were built to surrender to Fortuna. They were reactive, shaped to please others and respond to external validation. To overcome this, you must cultivate virtue, ruthless discipline, strategic patience, and calculated defiance. When society praises conformity, virtue demands radical honesty. When family expects blind obedience, virtue insists on strategic boundaries. When market trends seduce you, virtue commands clarity of purpose. Virtue doesn't promise easy victory. It promises a meaningful war. In practice, this means setting clear, non-negotiable boundaries. When someone demands time aligned with old, installed goals, refuse. When circumstances pressure you into reactive decisions, pause, clarify your code, then act. When Fortuna tries to redirect your attention with fear or temptation, return to your sovereign law. Han Feizi knew external forces were constant and unavoidable, but internal discipline, that was always yours. He saw that power lay not in preventing chaos, but in controlling your response to it. Your installed goals were designed to crumble under pressure. Your authentic goals, built through virtue, thrive under it. Remember, Fortuna shapes the battlefield, but virtue decides who holds the territory. Winning this war isn't a one-time battle. It's an unrelenting campaign. First, build your inner command center. Discipline your mind like a fortress with daily rituals that reinforce your personal code. Use reminders, journals, or alarms. Whatever it takes to keep your sovereignty top of mind. Consistency is your greatest weapon. Second, expect sabotage. Your old self, your peers, the media, even your family. They'll try to pull you back to familiar chains. Anticipate these attacks and prepare countermeasures. Develop a mental shield of indifference to external judgment. Remember, loyalty to installed goals equals surrender. Third, cultivate strategic alliances. Not crowd approval, but mentorships and friendships with those who respect your autonomy. The right allies amplify your virtue and provide a base for resilience. Fourth, practice ruthless prioritization. Not every battle deserves your energy. Learn to say no decisively, to distractions, to emotional manipulation, to convenience. Your empire thrives on what you reject as much as what you accept. Fifth, embrace discomfort as an ally. Growth, rebellion, and sovereignty require tension. When your mind screams for ease or approval, recognize it as the sound of your old programming fighting for survival. Lean into the discomfort. Use it to fuel your resolve. Han Feizi's philosophy was cold, but effective. Power is gained by those who outlast chaos, who outthink opponents, who do not romanticize their struggle but engage it with ruthless clarity. You are at war for your will. Victory belongs to those who strategize, persist, and refuse to be owned. Now, it's time to make your declaration. Knowledge without action is cowardice. You can understand the system, see the installation, even purge your false goals. But if you don't commit, if you don't fight with everything you have, you'll stay a prisoner. So this is your moment. Declare it publicly. Write it down. Shout it if you have to. In the comments, type, "I am the ruler." Say it like you mean it, because words carry power. They shift your identity from victim to commander. from pawn to strategist. The system wants you silent. It wants you compliant. It wants you chasing shadows you don't own. But you don't belong to the system. You belong to yourself. This war is brutal. It demands discipline, sacrifice, and relentless strategy. It will break you down before building you up. But victory is the only option. Because a life lived chasing someone else's dreams is not a life. It's a slow death. So stand up, take control, declare, I am the ruler, and then live it. Every day, every battle, every decision. The empire within is yours to command. The war for your will starts now.